Fire Mountain Aria, written and narrated by Jill Penrod. Chapter 7. The medical personnel knew they'd done all they could do and immediately released Trace, advising her to use as much Lychnic on him as necessary. That she already knew. Most strong singers kept supplies of the drug nearby, the only chemical known to soothe a damaged singing focus. Beyond that, they said to keep him resting. That might not be so easy, but for now, pain would keep him down. After she jumped them back to the skipper, she sang the sleep song at him, which gently dropped him into a deep slumber. And then she sat down with all of Dayton's files. This morning she'd barely skimmed the geological file, but now that a dangerous rock was part of the equation, she read through that file carefully. It seemed the most likely place to find answers to what they'd experienced. The Crichton Open Port District was large, but it contained few reefs. Most of those occurred along two parallel paths, places where, scientists said, the crust of the planet had cracked ages ago and released bubbles of vapor. The hot vapor melted the stone of the crust, and huge bubbles rose to the planet's surface, the ocean floor, where the cold of the ocean hardened them, creating the large, hollow stones, later to become reefs. Two theories were widely held. One, that the entire planet had undergone some kind of cataclysm that had formed the reefs all at once, and another, that a series of underground eruptions had formed them over eons. Regardless, nothing of such magnitude had rocked the planet in recorded history. However, she did read about a series of small tremors in this area. One had occurred just after the initial charter had been written, and no damage had been recorded. Then it occurred once again 30 years later, and then the most recent was 16 years ago. Small amounts of damage had occurred, mostly to the area around and in the northern docking bay, which was nearly against the wall between the known and the unknown sections of the reef. Earthquakes, she said. Maybe the old reef was abandoned due to earthquakes. Too bad nobody was out here taking data when this area was empty. She felt Trace's focus fluttering itself awake and went into his room. "You're supposed to be asleep," she said as he shifted into wakefulness. "You still hurt too much. Let me put you back under." He nodded, cringing. "Sure, but we're wasting time." "The reef has time. You need to heal. Watch out for the animals. We let them out. Maybe that was a good thing, but maybe we endangered them. I hate it, Echo. We saved all the people on Bougainville, but the animals? We didn't save the animals." She'd never thought about that, and she hated that Trace had. She also wondered why a few eels had affected him like this. It didn't feel natural. "This time we'll save everyone," she assured him. "Every living thing. I'll let Dayton know about the eels. You sleep." He nodded, and within 3 randoms, her song had gentled him back to sleep. She glanced at the clock, hoping Dayton returned soon with some answers. Trace's condition bothered her. They couldn't do much in this reef until they understood the unknown rock and why the reef had gone so long without needing a recharge. No, barreling forward into the unknown was why Trace was asleep right now, nursing a torn focus back to health. They had to slow down and do this right, or they would do more damage than tearing a focus. She kept harping on him to lighten up and let himself heal, but she had to admit she feared losing him more than she'd ever feared before. She laughed her relief when Dayton radioed for permission to board, and she let him in and waited while he looked around. "I didn't expect so much equipment," he said. "I guess I thought you did everything with reeds." "We do a lot with reeds, but we can do a lot with this, too. Come on in." "How is he?" Dayton asked. She concentrated on his focus, still calm, fascinated by the fact that she couldn't feel the pulsing. She needed to know if that was limited to Trace. She needed to know a whole lot of things, and she hoped to know many of them before her little brother woke up. Asleep, she said. He had some help. Dayton laughed. My mother used to do that to my siblings and me. She said a lot of parents don't agree with singing children to sleep, but it kept her from going crazy sometimes. My parents did it too, Echo said. She had spent very little time with folk singers in her life, and she was finding it enjoyable. She could feel his focus more clearly than he could feel hers, which was refreshing. Trace, of course, felt hers in bright, shining detail. I have some answers, he said, as she ushered him past the equipment room and navigational pit to the living quarters behind them. She led him to the sofa, but he stopped and touched a canvas on the wall. Trace, she said. He'd wanted to remove all his work from the skipper after they'd lost their family, but she hadn't let him. She watched Dayton, whose gaze traveled over the sketched reefscape with appreciation. Trace used to sketch. It's amazing, Dayton said. I don't leave the reef very often. I haven't seen all the life on the outside for a while. Trace had sketched the wildlife on the outside of the promontory reef. Fish and anemones and crabs waving their little claws. He's talented, she said. She grimaced. At almost everything. It's a little hard to live with, to be honest. Have a seat. They settled on a soft sofa, and he held out a tablet. First, there's no sign of an impenetrable rock in the reef walls except the wall against the unknown chamber. I sent a few people to run searches for me. I also sent word to 2 nearby reefs, and I had our dock master take a skipper out and run a scan on the ocean floor near the dock. No unknown rock there. So, right now, it's only appearing inside the enclosed section of the reef, she said. She sighed. That sounds suspiciously like something other realm. I don't want this to turn into an other realm issue. Why is it a problem? Dayton asked. I mean, don't Eldsingers? Aren't you part other realm? She laughed. Yes, our ancestry is other realm, but the recent dealings with other realmers didn't have such good outcomes. I've never heard the stories, Dayton said. I just know we have several other realm groups here on Portomare, but we're no longer allowed to travel to other realms ourselves. Right, she said. The stories aren't shared. I don't know all of them either, including what finally led to the outlawing of other realm travel. But as Odells, we have access to some private family history. I know some other realm visitations went well, and some went sour. Anyway, if we're dealing with other realmers, we don't have much information. Our databases won't know other realm rock or animals. We'll have to use more trial and error to find answers. And Trace's injury is the result of some of that trial and error, Dayton said. I'm sorry he was hurt. In your line of work, do you get hurt often? I'm sorry if I'm a little in awe of what you do. Don't be in awe. Trace points out that we can shoot air through mats of dead reeds. It's really nothing more than that. Trace can boil things down to their simplest. Then again, he can also complicate things beyond belief. Dayton laughed. So he's human. We think of Eldsingers as other, but I get the feeling that's not how you see yourselves. No, we know we're human. Before the accident, Trace could come off as arrogant. He's stronger and smarter than most everyone, and yes, sometimes he let people know it. But that was fear and shyness more than arrogance. Badly played attempts to fit in and belong. We don't always fit in. And Trace is different enough that even among Eldsingers, he doesn't always fit in. Dayton nodded, glancing over her shoulder at the drawing. Yes, baby brother was impressive in many ways, and annoying in even more. My youngest sister is similar, smart and shy, and not sure how to interact with the world. Echo exhaled. Yes, so you get it. Thank you. Anything else in your survey? Not really. Oh, yes, I had a thought. The stone near the bottom of a reef is thicker than the top, right? Yes. Maybe the unknown rock is thinner at the top, too. Maybe sensors will work if there's not as much to search through. She laughed. Wonderful thought. Thank you. We need to run a scan anyway, all the way around, before we start. We're extra cautious about irregularities and anomalies now. We'll do that tomorrow when Trace is feeling better. Trace was already waking up, which didn't surprise her. When he hurt, he didn't rest well, and the sleep song never put him out long. Their mother had said he was too ornery for the song to last. Apparently, that hadn't changed in his adulthood. As he woke up, his focus changed, and she found herself blushing. She was enjoying the company of Dayton Compton, and even from a room and a headache away, Trace realized it and was laughing at her. "What?" Dayton asked. "You have a strange look on your face." She almost denied it and then changed her mind. "Trace is awake, and he's silently mocking me the way little brothers do. It seems I'm enjoying the company of an attractive man, and he finds that amusing." "Amusing?" Dayton asked. He was working hard not to smile. From his vocal variations, she knew he was flattered and not offended. "He thinks I can be an ice queen. I think he can be annoying. Siblings, you know." "I do know. Thank you. I admit I'm enjoying visiting with an attractive lady. I guess he can feel that too?" "He can. He wouldn't be acting this way if you hated me. He doesn't want me hurt. But he doesn't mind if I squirm a little bit." Trace appeared in the doorway, and Echo watched him settle painfully on the sofa. "Okay, I'm not strong, but even I can feel your pain," Dayton said. "I'm so sorry." "Not your fault," Trace said. "Echo warned me. I don't always listen to warnings like I should." "He brought us some answers," she said, fearing Trace would let pain and melancholy drag him under. She preferred him laughing in mockery at her flirtations with Dayton, but the pain he'd felt upon rising had chased that away. "The rock is only in the extra section of this reef. What did you feel before you hit?" He shook his head. "Nothing. It didn't feel like dark rock. It wasn't as quick a splat. I lost control of the direction of the song. Maybe." "Dayton, would you mind if I ran a search on you?" Dayton raised his eyebrows. "Is there a reason I wouldn't mind?" "No," Echo said. "It won't hurt. You're checking the pulsing? Wait, no, don't play. I want to play. Because..." Trace grinned and waited for her to play. She searched Dayton, able to feel the pulse, and then she played the song at Trace. His grin said he knew what she would find. He was now pulsing too. His focus felt a little calmer, nothing like Dayton's, but considering the amount of pain he was experiencing, his focus was more relaxed than she would expect. "Pulsing," Trace said. "Right? It's that rock. Dayton, did you ever live near the North Wall?" "I grew up there." "Pulsing?" "Everything near that wall pulses with a slow, steady energy," Echo said. "Now that Trace slammed into the rock, he's pulsing with it too." "Is it dangerous?" "I don't think so," Echo said. "But I feel like an amateur on this reef. Nothing makes sense. Pulsing foci, impenetrable rock, and trapped giant eels. You live in a strange place." Dayton's focus shifted again, and she laughed. Right. In the chaos of Trace's injury, they hadn't told anyone about the eels. "Eels," Dayton said. "Giant eels?" "We released some trapped under the unknown side of your reef. Huge, strange energy," Trace said. "Do you know what they are?" Echo asked. "Are they common around here? They have this bioluminescent hair." Trace laughed. "Tentacles, like a squid, maybe, not hair." Dayton shook his head. "No, but..." He hit a few buttons on the tablet, typed a few things, and turned it around for her to read. She raised her eyebrows and held it out to Trace. "Just read it to me," he said. "My head isn't happy with me, and reading might cause an explosion in my brain." "Let me sing you back to sleep," she said. "This will wait." "Read it to me, and then I'll go back to sleep. We found a report filed by the original charterhead, the one who failed to keep the charter. But he didn't fail. He gave up. He said they heard things in the reef they couldn't explain, especially close to the north wall. And there were some tremors, and some people reported seeing sea monsters. Trace laughed. Again the sound warmed her heart. Of course they did. Sea monsters. Dayton Compton, although I have no idea how to deal with your reef, I do thank you for the mystery. You live in a fascinating place. Except we had no idea. Tremors, though, I do understand. We had several during the history of the reef. I was alive for one. 16, 17 years ago, we had a major tremor. It was worst near the north wall, and I lived there. Bits of ceiling came down, but the engineers said we had no cracks. The north docking bay took a little damage. Obviously, we had no breaches, or we wouldn't be here. Then nothing since. Nobody understood it because it seemed limited to our reef. The floor around us didn't indicate anything. Trace shot Echo a look. It all boils down to whatever's in that reef. It's hot, and it's unstable, and we can't get in there. I think I need to sleep on it. Maybe it will make sense when my head doesn't hurt. I hope so, Echo said. My head is fine, and I don't have any answers either. Just a whole lot of questions.